Hi, it's Stu Holliday here. I'm with Dr. Tim Holder of St Mary's University in Twickenham. Just want to ask you first of all, Tim, if you could just explain to me, you've been in the game of sports psychology for 20 years. Can you just explain how the role of sports psychology with coaches, what it has been like, and then what it's actually, how you feel it's actually developing?
Okay. Well, I think primarily what seems to have been the case 20 years ago was that you would work alongside a coach, but you'd have more of a separate role, supplementary to the work they were doing. Whereas I think now there's more collaboration, there's more working through coaches and even with coaches on their own preparation, rather than having a bolt-on service to what the coach is already delivering.
What is the perception like of sports psychology to them? Are they well educated, or do you have to spend a lot of time yourself educating them?
Much improved. Massive change in the level of understanding and the level of acceptance of sports psychology input within the coaching community as a whole. There are still some people who have concerns or are relatively sceptical. But they tend to be in the minority, and quite often when you speak to them, it's based on unfortunate experiences they may have had previously with sports psychology where the work hasn't been as good as it should have been. So you can completely understand where they're coming from.
So just for the benefit of people watching this, which sports have you covered or have you worked with most?
Sports that I have dealt with, I worked with table tennis for about a decade, still do coach education work with them, work with amateur boxing, swimming, sailing, and I'm currently working with synchronised swimming. So a range of sports, mostly individual, but some team elements to them as well.
And am I right in thinking that now you're working with athletics as well here at St Mary's?
Yeah, that's right. So we're offering services through St Mary's to a lot of endurance athletes, where they have access to physiotherapy, physiology, psychology, biomechanics, nutritional support, and we're trying to supply those on a need basis. So that if they want some support, then they can access that quite readily here on site.
And where do you see the role of sports psychology informing the work specifically with athletes, and maybe what you're doing here and in the next few years?
Well, I think always you're looking at performance enhancement. I think that's the ultimate objective. But more and more, I think there is a role for sports psychology with their overall well-being and their development as a person, as well as their development as a performer. So I think those two are becoming more meshed together.
One of the big things in sports psychology, working with athletes in a situation like that, is that's a nice aspiration, but oftentimes limited. Is that a big thing that you have to compete with?
I think always. Yeah, I mean, access used to be the issue. Actually getting access to practitioners, but now there's a support system there. It's then a case of identifying opportunities to alter workload to make sure that you can offer a good service to them. So most people in higher education are quite flexible and adaptable in the use of their time. So it's quite a nice mix within a higher education environment.
And just finally for me, I'm curious a lot about mental toughness. Is that an area you've working here at St Mary's with anyone?
Well, I think almost always you're working on mental toughness. You might be working on aspects of it, specific subcomponents of it, rather than mental toughness as a whole entity. But I think you're almost always, if you're working with competitive athletes, you're working on their ability to perform under pressure, and that for me is fundamental aspect of mental toughness. Which, if they can't work towards that, then they're not going to achieve their potential.
Cool. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers.